shoes, but where's the top of your head? And then could you do it with the other finger? Is it the same, exactly the same place? And keep going side to side and feel, because you're bringing your arm up, something's going to have to change. And then really get a sense of where is the top of my head in relationship to the top of my spine. So does it feel as if it's a little bit forward or back or exactly over the top of my spine? And where is it in relationship to my feet? In relationship to your feet? Yeah? So if that line continued down. And then if you kept your finger really lightly there now and you sort of made a circle, but really so that you're not moving your finger, you're sort of thinking of the top of your head staying in a light relationship. And just see how soft can you get that to be. Good. Okay. Go onto your hands and knees. And could you place the top of your head on the floor? So you've found the top of your head. And could you find a place your hands will be in a push-up position? And just play around with where you want your head to be relative to your knees. How close you want your head to be, or away. Where you want your hands to be in relationship to your head, whether you want your hands in a straight line with your head, or you have them between your head and your knees, or you have your hands above your head. And finding a place where you can really feel the weight is distributed so that it's not all on your head. And come up. And now could you make sure if you feel you don't have enough padding that you get some padding. Yeah, whether it's a towel, whether it's one of the... But if you feel any discomfort at all, anything at all, on the top of your head. As if you, because remember, this is one of the principles we use all the time. We know something is better organised when it can sort of feel it goes into the ground a little bit. Yeah, so it doesn't feel really hard and on one point. So we're trying to find a place that your head could rest, where it feels like your head can soften, that the ground gives a little bit to your head. So feel free to use as much padding as you like. Okay. So once you've, and again, take as many rests as you like as you're doing this. So once you've found a place for your head, could you begin to gently rock just a little bit forward and backward on your head, as if there's a vertical line in the middle of your head and you're rolling that line a little bit more in the direction of the back of your head and a little bit more in the direction of your forehead. Lightly, gently, so have as little or as much weight as you want on your head. This is about your learning. And notice from your beginning point where the top of your head is it easier for you to rock a little bit forward or a little bit backward? It's one direction, just a little bit easier. And then start to feel as you do this, could you begin to explore that every single part of you is involved in this movement. So your wrists will do something, your elbows will do something, your shoulders, your shoulder blades, your sternum, your spine, your pelvis, your hips, your knees, your ankles. So that you can begin to feel that this gentle rocking of your head forward and back is you rocking forward and back. So you can find this very gentle oscillation where your breathing is easy. And the smaller you can do the movement and still feel that all of you is in there, the better. And pause. Okay, so exactly the same position, and this time you're going to have a horizontal line on the top of your head. So you're going to be rocking a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right on the top of your head. And you can just start off very gently and small and easy and slow. And then gradually find a way, without increasing the size of the movement, to include more and more of yourself in the image. And to really feel, how's this different to going forward and back? So it's a real horizontal line. So you're rolling a little bit towards your left ear and a little bit in the direction of your right ear. And again, if you really feel you've got a lot of weight on your head, just sit back a little bit. Let your pelvis sit back a little bit. Put a little bit more weight onto your lower legs and your feet. Because again, this is another real lesson about changing our base of, well, not changing our base of support, that's staying the same, but changing how we can move within our base of support. And then just really easily do another couple forward and back and see, has that been informed at all by your movement left and right? And have a rest again. So this lesson's a little bit like, can you remember when we, well, in terms of its principle, in terms of the 4 points we did, you know, we had dots under your hands and your feet, and you were finding where it was easiest for you to do a lot of movement in a particular orientation of where you wanted your hands and your feet. Yeah, do you remember those lessons? Yeah, no, yes. Yeah. So again, everyone's going to be a little bit different where they can find their points. So do the same thing. Try your head in a different position. Just see, how does the position that I have my head in relative to my knees, if it's further away or if it's closer, influence maybe what parts of my torso become involved in this movement of rocking forward and back. So what does your spine do, your ribs? So we're getting a little bit. You're just simply exploring how where the top of my head is in relationship. Maybe you could have your knees a bit wider or a bit closer. And you don't need to do a lot, just a few in different positions to really feel how the base of support, where you have your base of support, for you is going to influence the parts of you that can be more easily involved in this forward, back, left, right movement. And see if you can stay pretty much within forward, back, left, right. And at no point is anything sort of fixed in space. So your elbows can move, your wrists, your hands can shift their weight, your knees can shift their weight. If you've got toes on the floor, part of your foot, everything can shift its weight just a little bit. Doesn't have to be big. So try at least 3 different positions for your head. So you can really begin to sense how the shape I make influences what becomes more or less available. And really always feeling as you're breathing easy. I think that's the one that most people brought up with challenge, that they like to hold their breath. And when you've finished exploring another 3 places, have a rest on your back. And maybe there's a little bit of you that could be interested in, has that had any influence on where I'm breathing? Doing those movements in, for most of us, a pretty non-habitual position. Bend your knees. And just do an easy tilt at the moment from 12 to 6 with your pelvis and get a sense how that goes through you. These constantly changing curves between your neck and your low back and through your rib cage. How ready is your chin to move up and down? And then going a little bit 3 to 9, just a little. And how does that go through you to the back of, to your head? Especially what's happening in that area between your shoulder blades, at the base of your neck. And come back onto your hands and knees. And your top of your head again on the floor. And just feel how free are my shoulders there. So could I use my shoulders to roll my head a little bit left and right or up and down? That area at the base of my neck. So that one elbow, if I'm going side to side, one elbow will be going a little left, one elbow will be going a little right, one will be dropping down, one will be lifting up. So really finding this freedom in your shoulders, in your upper back. So one of the things we've been doing in the previous ATMs was really finding a way to soften our arms, to let them give up their work. So now we're coming into a position where your arms are taking a little bit of weight and you're finding still, can I have that sense of softness, of responsiveness through my upper back, my sternum, my neck, my belly? Okay. So now, could you think about the area just above your pubic bone, your low belly, and staying on your head, could you gently push your low belly forward, which is going to let you arch your low back or your pelvis a little bit over your hips, and then pulling the low belly in to let your pelvis tilt the other way. So you're right down though at your pubic bone, right down over your hip joints. And again, just begin to explore, does where I have my head make a difference to this? Where could I have my head that I could find this area, this very low belly, low sacral area? Is it easier if I sit back a little bit more toward my heels? Do I want my head closer to my knees, further away? Where do I feel I can begin to mobilize this? And also begin to notice as you do that, could you do it in a way where your head, so all of you is still involved, but your head's only going to make a very small movement forward, back in response to it. So because if your head's not moving quite as much, you've got to find something else in your torso So you're never fixating your head. Yeah. But just seeing if you can just feel a much smaller movement. Good, and pause. So we're going to gradually work our way up your torso as we do this. So can you imagine that this wouldn't be easy to do if you're gripping in your belly muscles anywhere? Yeah? So you have to find a relationship between your head and your pelvis, that your breathing can be easy. Okay, so next one's your belly button. Yeah? So you're going to think of your belly button pushing forward a little bit toward the floor, and then lifting up away from the floor. So it's much more an up-down movement. So we're limiting a little bit the forward-back movement. You really find seeing, can I get a sense of freedom here, a sense of possibility, and feel I can still sense the top of my head. I can still sense the top of my head. But I can still sense that my ankles are part of this, and my knees, my hips, my pelvis, my sternum, my shoulders, my shoulder blades, my collarbones, my throat, my neck, my fingers. And really finding a way that I can get this in and out without holding my breath. That I can begin to separate my breath a little bit from being able to mobilize the muscles of my torso in this way. Pause again. And it's been really interesting to see those lower areas, how much you've been sort of really mobilizing your hips and your pelvis to help you out. So what happens if we move up further to the bottom of your sternum? So you think of the bottom of your sternum lifting up a little bit toward the ceiling and then coming down a little bit toward the floor. So what part of your back would that respond to? So if you, even as you're sitting, if you put your fingers where the bottom of your sternum is, where is that on your back? What part of your back would you be asking to mobilize there? And again, I know we were talking side bending before, but the more you move up into the thoracic spine, the more you're going to have to allow the ribs and the sternum to move. relative to your spine. And again, still exploring. Is it easier to have my head close or further away? What's going to open that area up for me? And again, notice, do you have to do a big rock on your head to mobilize this area, or can your head stay a little bit more still? And then the last area, which is usually the most challenging for most of us, is this area, top of the sternum. How do I drop that toward the floor and lift it away from the floor? And again, where would you need your head to be to make this easier? So that you can still be on the top of your head and that you can really begin to feel your shoulder blades going together as that top of your sternum goes a little bit toward the floor, and then the shoulder blades spread as it lifts away from the floor. And pause again. You can rest on your back if you like. So again, just like every other limb, your hands, your feet, or your hands and your arms, your feet and your legs, how do we organise our head to be weight-bearing? And we've already found a lot that weight-bearing is easiest when I can shift my weight a little, that it's not stuck into one place in the ground, so it's not posted, is the word we were using a lot last segment. Bend your knees again. And do your pelvic 12 to 6 again. And think of those 4 areas that we were mainly talking about at the front. So your pubic bone, your belly button, your lower sternum, and your upper sternum. And just get a sense of how they respond. To your 12 to 6 at the moment. Okay, back on your hands and knees. And this time, exactly the same thing, but you just don't think too much and just put the top of your head on the floor. And just feel, is that in the same position it was when I first started? Has anything changed? Anything recalibrated from those movements I've just been doing? And for a moment, go back to that very beginning movement of rocking a little bit forward and back on your head. Rocking a little bit left and right on your head. And feeling everything can help you out. So you can really feel your weight shifting a little bit left and right through you and a little bit forward and back through you. And then without losing any of that sense of how all of you is available to move, could you begin to make the movement of your head a little bit smaller so that you're really beginning to get a sense of what's happening in my upper neck? So we've sort of been working our way up your spine so that everything else is still in your picture, but you're thinking much more, it's a little rock. And I'm doing this more from the upper part of my neck. So that my chin goes a little bit toward my chest, my chin goes a little bit away from my chest. And then you could turn that into a little circle. So you're making a little circle around the top of your head. And it's your head initiating it. So you're really finding a way to feel some of these vertebrae in your neck. And that's totally supported by every other part of you. There's freedom in your very top of your neck. So your eyes will be soft, your jaw will be soft, breathing will be easy. Okay, so then, once you've found the top of your head there, could you begin to think that you could lift one knee a little bit away from the floor? Just a little. So your toes are staying long at the moment. And feel, how much do you have to move the top of your head? Or maybe an easier question would be, how little could you move the top of your head? So you know it's always possible to move it more. But how little could you move the top of your head? And really notice, what does your pelvis do to lift your knee? Does your knee swing out to the side, or does it lift straight up off the floor? And what do your shoulders do? Can you feel it all times? Your shoulders are soft. Just a little lift. Just the smaller the lift you can make it, the better. Because we haven't got your foot in a push position. So It's just a little lift. So you're leaving your toes on the floor. Toes are long on the floor. So you can begin to feel I could do this, and the front of my ankle has to get a little bit longer, if you like, as I lift my knee. Front of my ankle could get a little bit longer. Okay, come up to sitting. Just take a moment. What feels different? Anything different in the length of your neck? The sides, the back, the front? Where your shoulders might feel in relationship to your ears? Come up to standing. Anything different maybe in your breathing? Your ribs? What happens when you learn to weight bear a little bit through your head? Do your arms feel lighter or heavier? Think of the top of your head. Just locate that spot softly in your intent. You don't have to put your hand there. Just see if you can find it without your hand. And go for a walk and just see, what does the top of my head move when I walk? What does it do? How does it move through space? Does it move a lot through space, which you can do when we were doing a bigger movement with your head? Or can it stay more in a line moving forward? And could you let it do different things? Just play around with what happens if, as I walk, and I think of the top of my head going left or right, or a little bit forward back, as in, or if I think of it staying more in one place. How does that influence your breathing and your walking? It's an interesting one. Do I know where the top of my head is? Because there's no joint there. Okay, get into groups of 4 and just share with each other a little bit what you found interesting in that lesson. What do you think that lesson was trying to evoke?